Today we are going to talk about the word did, D-I-D. So the first thing I'm going to do is right here, it has D-I-D. So we're going to trace line down, circle around. Dotted line to solid line, and then a dot just above. The other way we can do a D is you make the circle from the dotted line to the solid line and then back up and then a line down. Make sure that the line is on the right side, pointing towards the left. Circle, line down, D and I, dotted line to solid line, and then a dot above, D. Did. D, I, D. Then over in here, I'm going to write the word. Starting at the dotted line, going around, making a circle, line down. If I'm not sure which way, just look at the example. D, I, D. Okay, I made this a little close. Next time I'm going to use my finger. Make sure I don't make it so close. D, I, D. Did, D-I-D. Did. Did I do well? Did we go to the park? Did I remember my homework? Did. So then down here we can write it again. D, I, D. Then in this section, it says color all of the words that are all the spots that have did green. The rest of the parts you can color anyway, any color you want. So I already colored the parts that didn't have a word in them. So these are the parts that I'm going to be coloring, but didn't have a word, so I'm not worried about it. So now we're going to look at the words. So D-O. Does that match the D-I-D? No, so we're not doing anything to it right now. D-I-D, D-I-D. So we're going to color that one green. Okay, then I'm going to go to the next one, D-O. Well, if I said D-O here was wrong, then D-O here is wrong too. So then I'm going to go down here. D-I-D, does it match? Yes, so I'm going to color it in. Okay, then the next one is D-I-G. The same as D-I-D? No, because the G is different. The first part, the D-I is right, but the G is instead of the D. Okay, so we're going to move to the next one. D-I-D. D-I-D, did. So I'm going to color it in. Remember, we're using just our green right now for the words. The other parts that didn't have any writing on them, you can do. But with these, we're going through. Then do, D-O, so we know that's not it. Do, and do. Then we have D-I-D. Yes. Okay, the next one, D-O-G. Ooh, I bet you guys know that word. Dog. But that's not did, so we leave it be. Okay, so now it says you can color the other one, the other parts, any color you want, except green. So don't color anything else green, just the word did, D-I-D, and the spot that did is in. So when you're done with those, you're going to color the other one. I chose. So you to have all of the dids colored in green, and then the rest of the picture, try to stay in the lines. That's one of the things we look at, and your wonderful D's. So now I want you to look over at your D's, and I want you to circle the one you did best at. I think this one is my best, so I'm going to circle it. Okay. Show your paper to someone in your family. Read them the D word, the did word. If you know the other words, you can read those too. In case your brain is working hard.